Hello all and welcome to the Mug Life DIY. My name is Julia and I am so glad you decided to stop by my channel. And today I am teaming up with my friend Sonja over at Domestic Diva DIY, and I'm so excited. This is our second month doing the Flipping Furniture Challenge. So check the playlist down in the description box and also on the community tab so that you can add your videos to the playlist. So I picked up this dresser for my husband quite some time ago, and I knew I wanted to update it and just refresh it. So first thing was first, I took off all of the hardware, the handles, took the drawer front off because there was 3 little drawers hiding behind that middle section. So I just took everything off. I dusted and cleaned it and removed everything else. And it did have quite a few really deep sections, but I knew I was going to be chalk paint, so I didn't really sand it that much. I just kind of went over the places that had really deep grooves, if that makes sense. Now, if you were not using chalk paint, you would definitely want to do this outside, and you could use a hand sander or an orbital sander. There's so many great options out there. But since I am painting this already upstairs in our bedroom, I just decided to do a hand sander and dust off any of the excess residue. And of course, the section that needed the most love with my little block sander was the top section. So that's definitely why I kind of had to go over some of the sections a little bit more. And then I dusted it, and then I just kind of looked at each of the sections and just kind of saw if I needed to go over it a little bit more. But overall, I was really happy with how just going over it once or twice with my sander ended up. And if you haven't already, make sure that you hit that bell icon and you subscribe to my channel if you love all things eclectic, boho, and Dollar Tree DIY. Now on to the fun part. I picked up this Krylon Chalky finish paint, and this was a prefab can, so I didn't have to get it mixed. I didn't have to special order it. I just walked right into Home Depot and picked up this can. Now, I did not think about picking up a new paintbrush. This is actually a Dollar Tree paintbrush. So this is what I had on hand, and I wanted to see how it would turn out using pretty inexpensive supplies, and you can kind of see how it turns out. I always like to do my top and then I work down. I'm not sure if this is just personal preference, but it's just kind of how I always tend to do it. Now, if you have never painted with chalk paint, you do not have to sand down if you don't want to. It literally sticks to anything, which is amazing. Word to the wise, this paint is extremely thick. If you have never worked with Krylon, I don't know why, but it's thick. So word to the wise, beware of that. Now, as my top was drying, I began working on my drawers. Now, because this is already in my upstairs bedroom, yes, it actually had clothes and everything in it. You would probably more than likely like to take your clothes out, but I was feeling extra lazy this day and I didn't take any of my husband's clothes out. So you should probably, try to do that. But I kind of worked in towards out, but I'm also extremely messy when it comes to my painting. Now, here's a little side note or tip. Whenever I had to leave to go pick up my son from preschool, I just shoved my brush, my little Dollar Tree brush, in a recyclable bag so that I could keep going. I have seen other people wrap it in aluminum foil or plastic wrap, but I don't have any plastic wrap. I don't use it in my home, so just an extra little option for you. Now, because there are so many grooves to this little dresser, you will see me kind of moving and opening and closing all of the drawers just so I could get into all of these little sections of my dresser. And I would consider actually painting instead of using a chalk spray paint, which is my first love. I would say this is probably an intermediate level of skill. I am nowhere near an intermediate, but I love painting. So this is always an interesting project when I decide to paint. I am not neat, and that's just kind of how I go. If you slow down, or if you actually used a chalk brush, which I do have one, no idea where it is right now, this project would probably look a little bit better. But for our bedroom, you really can't tell a little bit of the brush strokes. It's beautiful how it ends up turning out. So I would definitely encourage you, if you feel a little bit out of your comfort zone, just try it out. You never know until you try chalk painting or any other kind of refreshing of furniture. It's a skill that is learned. It takes practice, it takes time, but it is something that you can do. Now, I always end up doing my bottom. I lift my dresser up because I'm not doing it in my garage, I'm doing it in my bedroom. I lift it up and I kind of slide a piece of cardboard underneath, and it just helps if I get anything on it, and it just makes the project a little bit easier, less stressful. But even though my daughter did spill some of this paint all over our floor, words to the wise, toddlers. Now, this is the hardware from that front little, what are we gonna call that? It's like the front cabinet. It's kind of weird, but I took it off and I cleaned it just with some warm soapy water. And then I lightly sprayed it with some of my favorite Rust-Oleum spray paint. I did not do a heavy coat because you do want this to be able to move. You can sand it down. That's also a really good option. But this piece had never been spray painted before, so I didn't have to worry too much about it going on too thick. Now, this is my go-to wax. If you prefer using wax or you don't like using wax, you can use a polyacrylic with chalk paint. But I love just kind of how this adds to the chalky finish. It doesn't take away from the chalk paint, which is why I prefer using it. I waxed my entire piece, and it's just kind of a lightly swiping motion back and forth. You just want to use a lint-free microfiber cloth, which this one is from the Dollar Tree, and I just covered my entire piece with that wax. And just a reminder, if you are not familiar with my new challenge, I do this once a month at the beginning of every single month. I'm going to be showing you different techniques that I have learned along the way for flipping furniture, recycling pieces into other home decor, or just bringing back to life something that is old and outdated. I am by no means an expert at furniture flips, but I love doing it, and I love recycling pieces, and I love taking something that maybe someone threw away and giving it some new life. So I will have some of my favorite YouTubers that are amazing inspirations for furniture flips and refinishing pieces. So check in the description box, not only for the playlist, but for some other inspirations. Now, let me just say, I love these things that I just picked up. I found them in the painting section, and it just allows you to lift up a drawer front like this little cabinet that I had, and I was able to lift it up and paint it. All of the edges, everything, front, back, it's a game changer. I couldn't believe how simple these little stands were, but definitely worth the investment. I absolutely love them, and I can't wait to use them because I'm actually refinishing my cabinets in my kitchen. So this will be great when I finish and tackle that big project. Then once my little front door face dried, which was the next day because I was tired after all of that painting, I just reattached it with the screws that it came with, and I just used my handy dandy little screwdriver. Nothing fancy. I don't typically use a drill unless it's a really hard or deep kind of screw, but these were pretty shallow screws, probably 1/2 inch, and I just screwed them into the arty holes that were there. Yes, I painted over them a little bit, but it didn't make it too hard to shove the screws back in. Now, I did cover my entire project piece with 2 coats of my chalk paint, and I still have paint left in my little quart. So you wouldn't need a lot for this, even such a huge dresser, which was amazing. I thought that was really great. But my daughter also did spill out some of the paint, so I probably would have a little bit maybe about under halfway. So that's a really great amount of paint. So if you're kind of thinking project-wise how much paint you will need, for chalk paint you need less. It is a little bit thicker. You can dilute it a little bit with water. I have done that if I'm using a spray gun, but with just painting, I don't ever really dilute it, but it's a great option and really affordable and inexpensive to just go and grab some already pre-mixed chalk paint. Now, these little black knobs, or the hardware that I am putting on my dresser, I did order from Amazon, so I will have them linked down below. I really couldn't find anything I liked from Home Depot, but that's why I went the Amazon route. Now, do you guys remember our awesome chair that I did in our first furniture flip? But I encountered a few problems. One, my fabric didn't reach, or it wasn't big enough, and two, I ran out of staples. So yeah, there's always going to be some sort of hiccup along the way, but here you go. This is the brand that my staples fit, and again, it's a basic upholstery stapler. It's you can find pretty much anywhere. Walmart sells them, Home Depot, Lowe's, and I'm sure I can find an Amazon link for you guys. Now, I am no expert upholsterer. If this is something you feel way out of your comfort zone, there are super talented upholsterists and professionals, but this was a piece that was thrown away, tossed to the trash, and I am saving and upcycling, so I wasn't too worried about me doing it. So what I typically do first is I kind of measure a dry measure around all of my project piece that I am fixing. I love using curtain fabric. Most of the time, curtains are lined. They're a little bit thicker, they're a little bit more durable, and sometimes I just kind of like the patterns. Now, I couldn't find a pattern for this one necessarily, but I totally would have gone with a fun chevron pattern. That's totally more me, but this neutral vibe is so fun as well. But I just like using curtain fabrics. I will link down below a couple of my other upholstery projects that I have done just so you can check them out. And after I have stapled all the way around to my piece, I like to cut off my excess fabric. I don't like having a lot of fabric down at the bottom. I don't think it looks good, and it messes when you're trying to screw the piece back in. So I just like to cut down, and definitely invest in some good fabric scissors that your kids can't destroy. That's always my issue. And I just kind of go back around. I don't like anything sticking up, like all those little excess pieces. So I just go back through and I staple it some more. And I do like to tuck in. You can kind of see it's almost like a fake hem. And I go all the way around, just tucking and stapling all the way the entire seat cushion. And you can kind of see how it ends up. It just looks a little bit cleaner. Now, of course, I have like 1,000 staples in it, but don't worry, it's all good. Here's how my finished chair turned out. I absolutely love it. It's so fun. And it's a classic wood piece. This is going to be around for a really long time instead of the cheap little chairs that you can buy anywhere. Now I still have to finish my desk, so on to another project, another day. And here is how our bedroom dresser upcycle turned out. I absolutely love it. I think it's just so fun. It's definitely a modern farmhouse, kind of eclectic vibe. I was thinking about doing a stencil on it, but it already had that detailing with the leaf pattern, so kind of just ended up liking it as is. Tell me what you guys think of this gray color. If you love it, you hate it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you painted over wood. It's okay. I'll accept all any kind of comments below. I love talking with you guys. And I hope you guys will love this playlist and this challenge of flipping furniture. I hope you guys will get inspired to try something new and something out of your comfort zone. Don't forget to check out Domestic Diva DIY, and I will see all of you guys next time.